Sleeping with your dog. What to think? For many dog owners, the animal is a full member of the family. Sleeping with him or practicing co-sleeping, which consists of sharing the same room or the same bed, is thus experienced as a natural behavior for many masters and their little companion. But if this practice has demonstrated its benefits, particularly in terms of stress and anxiety management, it can have certain disadvantages, or even be discouraged in certain contexts. Anyway, if you want to practice co-sleeping with your doggy, you will have to respect a few precautions for everyone's well-being. So, is it a good idea to sleep with your dog? What should we think? What are the benefits of this practice? What about the disadvantages of the co-sleeping master-dog? What precautions are necessary? Let's take a closer look at this issue. Why sleeping with your dog can be beneficial. Sleeping with your dog is a beneficial practice that has been demonstrated by serious studies. As long as the master wishes it and the animal is in favor of it, this practice is known to have benefits, even if certain conditions must be respected. Let's discover these now well-known assets. A positive effect on sleep. Studies are regularly carried out on the relationship between the dog and the man, and in particular on the positive effects of this one at the psychological and physiological levels. American studies launched in 2015 and 2018 have highlighted the positive effects of sharing sleep with your doggy. Indeed, it seems that sleeping with your dog is considered reassuring for the respondents, to the point of reducing their sleep disorders. In addition, for 40% of the 150 people questioned who sleep with their dog, positive effects on sleep are proven. The presence of the animal disturbed only 20% of them. It should be noted, however, that the sleep disorders were mainly observed when the doggy was present in the bed and the benefits when he was in the room, but outside the bed. That's not all, because you should know that animal-assisted therapies, AAT, recommend sleeping with your dog because of the beneficial action of its presence in the event of pathological sleep disorders. A positive effect on stress. Other studies conducted to analyze the physiological responses of handler and dog have shown that a short-term interaction is sufficient to reduce the level of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, as well as heart rate, and to increase the level of oxytocin, the hormone of well-being. What about education? Canine educators who advocate the positive method and benevolence believe that sleeping with your dog does not present any problems in terms of education. However, the fact of sleeping in the same room or in the same bed must be at the initiative of the master and not of the dog. The animal must indeed know how to get out of bed or get out of the room as soon as its master orders it. Of course, consistency is key in education. If the dog is used to sleeping with his master, forbidding him overnight will be difficult for him to live with. Conversely, if it has always been forbidden to him, he will not understand why his master changes his mind and suddenly invites him to do so. Nevertheless, canine educators remind you that it is imperative to respect certain hygiene measures to sleep with your dog, and this, in everyone's interest. What are the disadvantages of this practice? For some masters, sharing their bed or their room with their dog is obvious. If we have previously discussed the beneficial effects of this practice which tend to prove them right, we must still be aware of the disadvantages of this co-sleeping master-dog. Hygiene to be nuanced. Sleeping with your dog may be pleasant, but you still have to be aware that our doggy friends are not the kings of cleanliness. Their presence in the bed or in the room leaves in the sheets and the room dead hair and potentially parasites, such as fleas, ticks, chiggers, lice and ringworms. However, these undesirables are within the reach of the master and can attack humans. The risk of disease. The dog can be victim of many diseases, in particular of pathologies which one classifies in the category of zoonoses. Zoonoses in diseases that can affect dogs and be transmitted to humans. And there are many zoonoses. Ringworm, scabies, Lyme disease, brucellosis, leishmaniasis, leptospirosis, to name but a few. It is therefore better to exercise caution, because some of these diseases are invisible in the animal. What about education? If benevolent canine educators are favorable to co-sleeping, this is not the case for those who use traditional education methods. Indeed, these professionals believe that sleeping with your dog gives the animal the role of the dominant, which unbalances the relationship of man-dog domination, which should place the master at the head. Nevertheless, if these traditional educators think that the master-dog co-sleeping pushes the animal to gradually dominate its owner to finally impose itself on him, these words are today contradicted by the studies which have established the fact that if the intraspecies between congeners is proven, although fluctuating, there is no real interspecies domination between two distinct species. In this case, the animal can be dominant or dominated depending on the situation. What recommendations to follow for sleeping with your dog? If you decide to share your room and especially your bed with your little furry friend, here are the recommendations that we advise you to follow so that everything goes for the best. Practical advice. Brush your dog regularly to remove as much dead hair as possible. Before going to bed, check your pooch's coat to make sure he doesn't have ticks, fleas or other parasites. Deworm your dog regularly. Keep their vaccinations up to date. Make sure your pet is healthy. Your dog must sleep. Education advice. Your dog must wait for your permission to get on the bed, because he must understand that this is your space and that you share it with him whenever you want. Install a basket in the room to send him there if the co-sleeper in the bed is complicated or if he climbs on the bed without waiting for your green light. Provide a comfortable bed in another room and let your dog sleep there from time to time. This will help him to understand that your bed is not his due and to accept the nights when he cannot share your bed or your room for valid reasons: illness, parasites, presence of a child, etc. Sleeping with your dog. What contraindications? In some contexts, sleeping with your dog is to be avoided. This is particularly the case when the animal has been treated with an antiparasitic pipette or when wearing an antiparasitic collar. The dog is dirty. Your pooch has external and/or internal parasites. Your dog is sick. Your spouse does not agree, because the co-sleeping master dog should not be imposed. You already share your bed with your children, an elderly person, a sick person, an immunocompromised person, an asthmatic person or an allergic person. Your dog refuses to get out of bed when you tell him to. Your pet moves, snores, sprawls in bed or disturbs your sleep. The pooch suffers from separation anxiety.